Shut up! Turn your music down, please. It's bad. I'm trying to film. I tell someone that I have diabetes for the first time, they'll say, oh, a vegan diet can cure that. Oh, cinnamon can cure that. Let me tell you right now, if a vegan diet or eating cinnamon with all of my food can cure me, I would have done it the day I was diagnosed. Like, do you not understand that, like, I didn't choose to live with it. Like, I didn't choose to have it for the past 8 years. Like, of course I would eat vegan, or I would eat anything just to cure my diabetes. Like, are you kidding me? Like, God, it's so frustrating. Hey guys, it's Annalise Berlin. So today, I am gonna be talking about something that I just want to get out of the way. It's more on the serious side, and I never want to have to get too serious on my channel, but I just figured it was good to get out of the way because it is part of who I am. Don't forget to watch until the end of the video so that you can hear the whole story and how I was diagnosed with my chronic disease. Like I said in my last video, I am a type 1 diabetic. I guess I'm just gonna go through what diabetes is, the symptoms, and then my diagnosis. So I have type 1 diabetes, and there are two different types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. I think it's important to kind of explain the difference between the two just so that there is no confusion, because there is a lot of misconception around the disease. So basically what diabetes is it is an autoimmune disease where my pancreas, or anyone's pancreas, stops working. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the definition so that I can give you guys a better explanation because I'm not a doctor. So if you just look up diabetes, just diabetes, it says, diabetes is a disease in which the body's ability to produce or respond to the hormone insulin is impaired, resulting in abnormal metabolism of carbohydrates and elevated levels of glucose in the blood and urine. I have type 1 diabetes, and that is usually, in rare cases, this might not be the case, but usually it's diagnosed in children and babies. I was diagnosed when I was 12, which is actually a tiny bit older than normal. But let's get into what type 2 diabetes is. It is a long-term metabolic disorder that is characterized by high blood sugar, insulin resistance, and relative lack of insulin. Type 2 diabetes primarily occurs as a result of obesity and lack of exercise. Now, I'm not going to say that all type 2 diabetics are obese and don't exercise and don't take care of themselves, because there are cases where type 2 diabetics just get type 2. Like, it could be because it's hereditary, and someone could be taking care of himself fine and still get type 2 diabetes. The main thing that I would say, and the reason why I'm saying that not all type 2 diabetes bring it upon themselves is because it's not true, but the easier way of comparing the two is one is usually brought on by poor, like taking care of yourself poorly, and the other one is brought on just because your body failed. Now, the one that I have is just because my body failed me. There was nothing that I could have done to have prevented getting this disease, as well as all the other type 1 diabetics. Now, insulin is a really important hormone because it breaks down carbohydrates. It sends signals to muscles, fat, and liver cells in the body to absorb glucose or sugar from the bloodstream to be used for energy. Now, everyone knows that sugar is used for energy, and insulin plays a huge role in breaking down carbs, making it into sugar, releasing it into your bloodstream. Without producing this hormone, you will die, unless you obviously give yourself insulin injections. So diabetes is when your pancreas stops producing this insulin. Or for type 2 diabetes, your body just doesn't react to insulin. So the best way that I was described type 2 diabetes was that if you overwork an organ, so your pancreas, because you're eating so much and you keep eating and eating, and your pancreas has to just keep producing insulin, it's eventually going to give out. And eventually it's just going to either stop producing insulin, or your body's just going to get so used to the fact that so much insulin is being released, it's going to become resistant to it. So that's basically what happens with type 2 diabetes. The symptoms Obviously I know them, but I didn't have all of the symptoms. I just want to read off everything because I think it's important that if you do have these symptoms, please go get checked. Please go to the doctor. It is so important to take care of yourself and to recognize these symptoms because it can be very, very dangerous if you just ignore them and don't do anything about it. The main symptoms along with type 1 diabetes is extreme thirst, frequent urination, losing weight for no reason, blurred vision, you're always tired, you're nauseous, sleepiness, and weight loss, which I had already said. Now for me, I had almost all these symptoms except I wasn't extremely hungry and I wasn't losing weight. The main symptoms that I had were extreme thirst, frequent urination, unfortunately bedwetting, let's see what else, blurred vision, absolutely. I was always tired. I still am always tired, but I was extremely tired. So now I'm just gonna get into all about me and my diagnosis and how living with diabetes has affected me today. So about me and my story and my diagnosis is not as common as a lot of people who do have type 1. So I'm just gonna backtrack all the way to when I was little, probably, I don't even know how old I was, maybe 3 or 4. I think, and I had an extremely high fever and it was around 106 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, this obviously is an extremely high fever and it's really dangerous, and because it was so high, it attacked my pancreas instead of the virus initially. Now, obviously it did attack the virus after a little while because I am better now. Like, I don't have the virus anymore. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. But, yeah, so throughout the time that I was sick, until about 6th grade, I did not have diabetes. It was sitting in my system and my pancreas was weakened, but I did not know this. My doctors didn't know this. I did not have any of the symptoms. So in February of 2010, my friend took me to Hawaii. The plane ride from New York to Hawaii is extremely long. I think it was like 12 or 13 hours. And once we got there, the first day I was okay, I was fine. But then as the days went on, I started to become extremely thirsty to the point where if I didn't have water, I literally thought I would die. It was the weirdest sensation. Like yeah, everybody gets thirsty, but this thirst was like, if I did not get fluid in my system, I would die. So I was constantly drinking, and then of course when you're constantly drinking, you're peeing a lot. I was constantly getting out of the pool and going to the bathroom. And this happened probably about 10 times within 45 minutes. Now, my friend that had taken me to Hawaii was getting really frustrated because we would be playing around and I would be like, I have to pee. And she'd be like, you just went to the bathroom 2 minutes ago. Like, why are you going again? And I don't blame her for getting frustrated because I would get frustrated too if my friend kept going to the bathroom. She probably thought that like I just didn't want to hang out or whatever. But it was really frustrating to me. And then later that night, I woke up in the middle of the night, everyone was sleeping, and I was chugging water. Like, there was no tomorrow. Like, I was just chugging it and chugging it and chugging it, and I couldn't quench this thirst. So that was when my symptoms first appeared, which was in Hawaii. Now, after about 10 days, I went home, and these symptoms were still there. And they weren't getting any better, but they were getting worse. Now, within the time that I got home from Hawaii and I was diagnosed, I was talking to my grandpa because my grandpa is actually a surgeon, so he has a lot of background knowledge on different diseases. And my mom explained to him the symptoms that I was having, and he called me and he was like, you might have diabetes. And I was like, okay, like, it didn't really hit me. Like, why would me, like, little skinny Annalise, have diabetes? Like, I didn't do anything. Like, that's not possible. So I didn't really think anything of it, but as the days went on, it kept hitting me, and I was like, there's something wrong with me. Maybe I do have diabetes, even though I had no knowledge as to what it was, besides my dad having type 2. But that's what I kept thinking. I was like, maybe, like, I do have a disease. Maybe there's something wrong with me. And I remember even going to school being like, yeah, like, I think I have diabetes. And everyone was like, no, you don't. You're fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. But as these symptoms progressed and didn't get better, my parents took me to the doctor because they thought that I was dehydrated and that I just needed to get some IVs to rehydrate my body. So I went to the doctor, I peed in a cup, and It took a couple of hours for my doctor to actually call my mom back and to tell her to take me to the hospital. Now, I think my doctor also thought that I was dehydrated. I don't think she thought that I had diabetes. So I got home from violin practice and my parents were like, we need to talk to you. And they were like, we need to take you to the hospital. And I was like, begging them not to take me. I was standing up against the fridge crying, and I was like, no, please don't take me to the hospital. I don't want to go. I'll rehydrate myself. I'll keep drinking water. I'll be okay. And they're like, no, Annalise, we really have to go. Like, this is just to help you and to get you better. So I finally agreed. I packed a bag, or I didn't know how long I was going to be staying. And they took me to the hospital, and we went through the emergency department, but where like the ambulances take patients, which is not the right way to go in, and that will play kind of an important role later on in the story. But basically, I went through that way, and I don't remember signing any papers. I don't remember like waiting in a room. I remember just going right in, and a doctor like picked me up and put me on a counter in the middle of the ER, and they were like, we're gonna test your blood sugar. And I was like, okay, I didn't know what that meant. So he grabbed my finger, he tested my blood sugar, and it hurt so bad because I wasn't used to it and I wasn't ready for it. I didn't know what that was. And then he was like, okay, so now go to the bathroom, pee in this cup. I went to the bathroom, peed in a cup, came back, and they set me up in a room, in the emergency room, instead of sitting on the counter that they placed me on. So they put me in a room. I was waiting for hours, and a doctor came in and she sat next to me and she said, I don't remember exactly what she said. Everything is a blur. This happened 8 years ago now. But she said, you have something called diabetes. And I was like, okay. And like, it didn't really hit me. I don't know. I think I just didn't really take it that seriously. I didn't know exactly what diabetes, like what type 1 was. So I was like, okay, like, whatever. I remember I was like watching TV or whatever, so I was kind of more focused on that. And then someone came in with a wheelchair and they were like, okay, we're gonna take you up and we're gonna admit you. And I was like, okay, like I can walk, I'm fine enough to walk. And they were like, no, you're gonna sit down and we're gonna wheel you up to your room. So they wheeled me to my room, they put me in a bed, and that's pretty much all that I remember from the first day of getting the diagnosis. And I was in the hospital for about 5 days, 6 days, I don't remember. It was a lot going on. But I stayed there for a while, and then as the nights progressed, I started crying hysterically, and I just wanted to leave. I wanted to get out of there. I did not want to be there anymore, which is totally common. Like, no one wants to stay in a hospital. But I remember them teaching my mom how to give me insulin with shots, with syringes. And I remember going to a few classes about diabetes, like teaching us what to do. And I remember practicing injections on oranges. I don't, like, everything is honestly just a blur from that week. There was so much going on. But the funny thing about the fact that I went in the wrong entrance for the emergency room was that the people that went in the right way were actually waiting for a couple of hours, and I was moments away from going into a coma. So if I didn't go in the wrong way, then I would have probably went into a coma, or something would have happened. I would have passed out because my blood sugar was extremely high, and it was very dangerously high. Now, thinking back on all of that, and thinking back to like things leading up to being diagnosed, is kind of crazy how your body works and how your body tells your mind to kind of go into survival mode and just act on like a certain feeling that you're having. What I mean by this is that when I would have low blood sugar, which at the time I didn't know I was low because I wasn't diagnosed yet, I would immediately say, I have to eat something. Like, I don't care what it is, I need to eat something, which is what you have to do when your blood sugar is low. And it's weird because, like, I didn't know that I had to do that when I felt that way. I just knew that once I did eat, when I felt that way, I felt better. Now, living with it today is a lot easier now that I'm at school, and I've had it for 8 years now, almost 9 years. I definitely face a lot of challenges with it. It's hard having an invisible disease just because people don't think that it's as serious as it actually is. Now, it's livable. It's not like it could be worse, and that's what I would tell myself, but that's also not really fair to tell myself because it's hard to live with. It's not easy. I had to give myself, I'm trying to think how many injections I have to take. I have to take about 8 to 10 a day, I think. So about 8 to 10 shots a day, and I prick myself a lot too to test my blood sugar. So I'm around needles all the time. I'm used to it. But I don't know, like, it's frustrating because I don't always feel 100%. I'm worried about if I will pass out or if something bad will happen to me. Because I will be honest and say that I'm not the best at taking care of myself, which I definitely could be, but I have a lot to work on in that department, which is okay, it's normal. But there also are a lot of long-term complications with diabetes, and I will read them to you. So, oh, and then another symptom I was having, this is super embarrassing and this is super graphic, but like whatever, it's the reality of the disease, was I was wetting my bed a lot, and it happened almost every night up until I was diagnosed from the time that I came home from Hawaii. And that just like wasn't normal for a 6th grader. Like, you don't do that. So that was another red flag to my parents that something was wrong, because I wasn't a bedwetter. Like, that didn't happen. And it's also interesting that I was diagnosed after coming home from Hawaii, and that the symptoms appeared after the 12-hour plane ride, because after I was diagnosed, they were like, were you on a plane recently? And I was like, yeah, I just got back from Hawaii about a week and a half ago. And they said, that is why your symptoms showed up when you were in Hawaii. When you're in a plane and you're up high and you're going far, the pressure obviously changes the higher that you go. So the pressure from being like in such a high altitude actually caused my diabetes to come out and to present itself, which is, I guess, good in a way, because I don't know what would have happened if I didn't go on a plane. I don't know if my diagnosis would have been worse, if I would have passed out and gone into a coma. But yeah, so that's also the interesting part about my diagnosis. It doesn't happen very often, and also the fact that it is not hereditary. Some of the long-term, complications. So, heart and blood vessel disease. So diabetes dramatically increases your risk of various cardiovascular problems, including coronary artery disease with chest pain, heart attack, stroke, narrowing of the arteries, and high blood pressure. So when you have diabetes, your chances of having a heart attack or a stroke are increased by a lot, which is very scary. Another long-term complication is nerve damage, also called neuropathy. So excess sugar can injure the walls of the tiny blood vessels that nourish your nerves, especially in the legs. This can cause tingling, numbness, burning, or pain that usually begins at the tip of the toes or fingers and gradually spreads upwards. Poorly controlled blood sugar could cause you to eventually lose all senses of feeling in the affected limbs. Another long-term complication is kidney damage. The kidneys contain millions of tiny blood vessel clusters that filter waste from your blood. Diabetes can damage this delicate filtering system. Severe damage can lead to kidney failure or irreversible end-stage kidney disease, which requires dialysis or a kidney transplant. Skin and mouth conditions. Diabetes may leave you more susceptible to infections of the skin and mouth, including bacterial and fungal infections. Gum disease and dry mouth are also more likely. The last few would be pregnancy complications. So high blood sugar levels can be dangerous for both the mother and the baby. This is basically if you don't take care of yourself while you're pregnant and leading up to you trying to get pregnant. Just with pregnancy, you have to be extremely careful. And like the more severe complications would obviously be going into a coma or eventually death. So it's hard to think about the fact that like my future might look like that if I don't fix the way that I am taking care of myself. It's really hard just being around people that don't have it and just kind of trying to be like them, and I have to realize that I'm not like them and my body is different, which is really frustrating and it sucks. And it also sucks when you're trying to get work done or trying to sit through class without falling asleep because you had a bad night with your blood sugar. Like, your blood sugar is up and down throughout the day, which is exhausting. Also, stupid comments are exhausting as hell too. Like, is that the good kind or the bad kind? There is no good or bad kind. Diabetes in general sucks. I will say that type 2 is possible to reverse. I'm not saying that every person can reverse their type 2 diabetes. It is very, very hard to do, but it is possible. Type 1 diabetes cannot be reversed. There is no cure. The only thing is treatment, which is insulin. Another really frustrating thing that people tell me is what I can and cannot eat. I can eat anything. I can eat whatever you're eating. It does not matter. I just have to take care of myself. I have to make sure that I am accounting for what I'm eating with insulin injections. So like, I can eat anything. We can eat anything that we want. It's okay. It's not gonna kill us. Another question that I get all the time is, what did you do to cause your diabetes? Now, if you stayed through this video and you watched everything, you will know that I didn't do anything to cause it. There is no way of preventing it. It really kills me. I wish that there was a way for me to have prevented it, because it sucks to live with. It's not fun. And people say, at least it's manageable and not cancer. Now, I will agree with this. It's not cancer, but frustrating thing about this is that it kind of degrades us, because we have to literally fight every day to live, and we have to give ourselves insulin injections just to live. If I didn't do that, I would be dead within 2 days or 3 days. It is impossible to not take insulin injections without dying, basically. So we do have to fight for our lives all of the time. Another thing that's really frustrating is when people say, I could never give myself a shot. Yes, you can. Shut up! Turn your music down, please. It's bad. I'm trying to film. Thank you. So basically, another thing that, what was I saying? Needles, I think? Okay, so people are always like, oh, I would never be able to deal with insulin, or I would never be able to give myself a shot every time I had to eat. Yes, you would. Let me tell you right now, straight up, you would. If it was a matter of life and death, you would choose needles so fast. It's what I have to do to survive. You're gonna do anything that you have to do to survive. So it's really annoying when people say that. And I understand where people are coming from. There's this lack of information and lack of knowledge around type 1 diabetes or diabetes in general. So people will make stupid comments, and I don't get frustrated with them, because I understand that they just don't know. Now, this is my favorite one. The amount of people that I have encountered that have told me they have the cure to diabetes is too many to count. I'm sorry if this story time, or if all of this was like all over the place. This is my first time kind of sitting down and telling a story, especially something so close to me and so personal. But like I said in the beginning, if you have any symptoms of diabetes, please go to your doctor. It might not be anything, but it's better to be safe and sorry. Don't self-diagnose yourself. Don't listen to my video or other people's videos or WebMD. Don't diagnose yourself. Just go to the doctor, get checked out, be safe. That's all I ask. But if you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And don't forget to follow all of my social media accounts that I have linked down below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!